Happy employees are productive employees and committed employees. But making employees happy seems like it's harder than ever. Fortunately, we got a few answers in this video. Hey leader, David Burke is here, organizational psychologist and author of 5 best-selling books on helping leaders and teams do their best work ever. Yep, 5, including the new book, Best Team Ever, The Surprising Secrets of High-Performing Teams. And if you're a regular part of this community, or even if you're really liking what you hear in this video, I know you're gonna love that book as well. Check it out at the link in the description. As long as people remain at the center of organizations, attracting, retaining, and motivating those people, keeping them happy is going to be one of the most important jobs as a leader. And the day may come when AI does all of the work for us and we just sit on lounge chairs with big gulps like in WALL-E. But until that day, work remains central to our lives, and being happy at work can be a huge boost, not only to productivity and profitability, but it's the more ethical, moral thing to do too. Life satisfaction scores go up dramatically when people are happy at work. But making people happy at work, keeping people happy at work, seems like it's been harder than ever. I mean, sure, there's been circumstances outside of our control, global pandemics, threatened supply chains, great resignations, etc. But there are some things that are inside of your control when it comes to making employees happy. And in this episode, we're gonna break down the 4 things that really shape an employee experience. And this is based on some recent research from Mark Mortensen and Amy Edmondson, 2 amazing researchers in the world of employee experience and organizational culture. 4 things that shape that, 4 things that keep employees happy, and what you can do as a leader at any level of the organization to try and move the needle in each of those 4 things. Let's get started. So the first category of things that make employees happy are material offerings. And this is probably where your mind went right away. Material offerings are compensation, benefits, work arrangements. What does the office space look like? Is there a foosball table? Is there beer or kombucha on tap in the break room? Material offerings are also how much flexibility or opportunity to work remotely do you have? What's the schedule like? And what other perks come with the job? These are the material offerings, the basics and the logistics about the job. And the truth is, unless you're a business owner or unless you're a senior leader, there's not a lot you can move here. I mean, certainly you can play around if you're in one of those roles with compensation packages and flexibility, etc. But if you're a middle manager, if you're a frontline leader, you don't really have a lot of say over the material offerings. Fortunately for you, material offerings are not the total package. We'll talk about the other 3 things and the ways you do have influence over them. But also it's worth thinking about what elements inside material offerings you might be able to shift. Right? Flexibility, there might be a corporate-wide policy on flexibility, but you might be able to move the needle on your team inside of the bounds of that corporate policy and provide more flexibility. You might not be able to move the whole company's physical office, but is there something you can do with the office space you're in charge of, with even the arrangement of desks or the way that people could have a mix of spaces for private conversations and collaborative work instead of just a sea of cubicles? There are certain places you might be able to exert a small amount of control in material offerings, and it's worth considering them, because even if you can't push it too much, your team and the people on your team will appreciate that you tried. And if you can, if you're the business owner or you're a senior leader, it's worth always keeping an eye on material offerings. One of the things that fascinates me is that people move for pay even though there are all of these other factors that keep employees happy at work, and usually those are a bigger influence. But it's still sort of basics, it's table stakes. You can offer an amazing culture and a sense of meaning and purpose, but if you're paying at the 25th percentile for talented people in your city, expect them not to be very happy about that. Expect them to look for the benefits of those material offerings somewhere else. The second thing that makes and keeps employees happy is opportunity to grow. The ways in which an organization or a manager can help employees learn new skills, develop new bodies of knowledge, take on new challenges. The ways in which people feel like the organization or their leader is committed to them growing and developing into new roles, not just performing well in their current role. All of those have a dramatic effect on how satisfied and how happy people are with their jobs and with the company that they work for. And this is one where even as a middle manager or a frontline leader, you can help tremendously. I mean, yeah, there's obviously big opportunities for promotion that will present themselves at times that are outside of your control a lot of the time, but you can still go to bat for your people in those moments. Even before that, there are still things you can do to get to know your people, the people on your team, their wants, their desires, where they want to grow into, and create for them opportunities to hone those skills. Maybe it's by actually outsourcing or offloading some of the things you need to do as a manager so they can get some practice doing the tasks that a manager has to do. Facilitate the weekly meeting every once in a while, or run these budget numbers before you check them, obviously, so that they get a sense of what it's like to do that task. Sometimes when you have this conversation with your people, you might find out that they want to grow into roles that are not the normal up of the hierarchy. Maybe they want to grow into a totally different industry or work for a totally different organization. But if you've built a sense of trust, if they respect you and they feel like they can be honest with you, there's still things you can do to help them in that moment. And while they're still here, waiting to grow into that new role, they're gonna reward your desire, your vested interest in their growth with outstanding performance in the meantime, because they're gonna be happy in the current job. And yeah, they might be happy in another job somewhere else, but they're always going to remember how invested you were in their growth. And they're always going to remember you as that fantastic boss. And who knows? Maybe they'll go into that industry and they'll decide they want to come back, or maybe they'll meet somebody dissatisfied in that industry who would love to actually work for you. You have no idea where people are going to grow and develop, and how the industry is going to be smaller and smaller and smaller. All of those connections are going to factor in positively if you choose to be positive about people's growth and development, or negatively if you choose to ignore that sense of growth and development. And the third thing that keeps employees happy is a sense of connection and community. Humans are social creatures. This one's a no-brainer. It doesn't matter if you're introverted or extroverted. You want to be around people. Just it might be, a difference in how many people and how often. How well people feel like they're part of a community, that they belong there, that they can bring their whole selves and feel accepted there, and also that they're appreciated for the work that they do has a dramatic impact on their satisfaction and their happiness on the job. And what's most interesting here is that if you are not a senior leader or the business owner, if you're that middle manager or that frontline manager, you're actually most important on this factor, right? Because most of our experience of work is the team or teams that we're working on. So how well you foster that sense of community, how well you foster that sense of connection. Do you make time for non-work conversations where people get to know more about each other and maybe build some connections outside of work that turn into real friendships? Do you take the time often to make sure people are appreciated? Do you celebrate small wins? Are you giving out copious amounts of thank yous and praise so people know that they're appreciated for the work that they do and that they're making a contribution to that team? Are you taking the time to do that? Or is every time you get the team together, you just think it's just time to talk about where numbers are and connection and community will take care of itself? It won't take care of itself. But if you take care of it on your team, you'll be leading a group of people who feel that strong sense of connection and community, something that senior leadership or HR or some other department could never handle. You gotta handle it for your own team. And the fourth and final thing that makes or keeps employees happy is a sense of meaning or purpose. How well do people connect with the organization's reason for existence, and how well do they feel like they're making a contribution toward that reason for existence? And I'll take this one even further. A lot of organizations have a fancy mission statement or a vision statement or a purpose statement. And yeah, if you can align the goals and the motivations of the team with that organization's goals and their mission and purpose, great. You've got an aligned team. That's awesome. But if you could take it a step further and not just answer why we do what we do, but who is served by the work that we do, you can leverage what's often referred to as pro-social motivation, the motivation to protect or promote the well-being of others. And not only will you get a more motivated team, you'll get a team that is dramatically happier at work as well. There's decades of research that tie into this idea that giving of ourselves, helping our community, helping our teammates, helping the world makes us happier in return. It truly is better to give than to receive. And why we do what we do is to give. Yeah, we might work for a for-profit organization, and when we give, we get back a profit. But ultimately, Every organization that succeeds over the long term is making the world better in some way, is helping people with a need that either they didn't know they had or that they know they had, and you are providing so much aid to them because you exist. How well can you tie your team's work back to that? To who is served by the work that we do on a regular basis. Doing so will really leverage that meaning and purpose. And again, this is one where if you're in a senior leadership role, great, but if you are a middle manager or a frontline leader, even more important, because this is felt at the team level most often. The difference in engagement and satisfaction between teams that have a manager that regularly communicates purpose and teams that don't is incredibly significant, sometimes 30%, sometimes a doubling in the experience of a feeling of meaning and purpose. Because purpose is personal, and you, as a leader of your specific team, have the best chance of tying each person's work into a different person who's served from that work. And when you look at all of these together, it's pretty clear. You may have thought that material offerings, compensation, benefits, flexibility, what does the office space look like? That's certainly the easiest to measure, and that's certainly the reason a lot of people give an exit interviews for why they leave. But if you think about your own experiences and the workplaces that made you the most happy, it's usually one of the other three: opportunities to develop and grow, connection and community, or meaning or purpose that really made the difference in whether or not you felt ecstatic about coming to work every day, or whether or not you felt like, I'm just here for a paycheck, even if it was a very large paycheck. So whether you have the authority, the ability to focus on material offerings or not, I would encourage you to make sure you're focused on the other three. Make sure you're talking meaning and purpose on a regular basis, building connection and providing opportunities to grow and develop. And you'll find that the employees on your team, the people on your team, are not only happier, you'll find they're better able to do their best work ever. Oh, and one more thing. There's a great breakdown on what makes employees happy and the research on that among all employees. But if you want to dive specifically into the high performers on your team, or the ones you want to be high performers on your team, you're going to want to check out this video here on what high performers want.